Dear Richard, every time I mention to students or colleagues that I did my postdoc with Richard Morris, I always get the same reaction. Wow, the Richard Morris of the Morris Water Maze. And it always with great pride that I answer, yes, indeed, but I did far more than simply meet you. I share incredible moments and learn so much by your side. I remember the Friday evening at the pub, the warm moment in your home with your family and the member of the lab. I remember my early days at Appleton Tower, and especially when you were writing the Hippocampus Book with John O'Keefe, Tim Bliss. But for me, the most important thing was the solidarity and the true lab family that you created and brought together around you. All these people shaped my life. Jane, Dorothy, Kate, Rosamund, Emma, Jamie, Tobias, Stephen, Stephanie, Stephen, Bruno, Roger, Richard, and even more. And it was also during the tragic loss of Ian that we felt the unity most deeply. Today, my career would never have become what it is without this experience by your side. The relevance and originality of your scientific question, your rigor in experimental design and control, and your teaching on how to build a successful scientific story, such as ski mastery. I miss that time deeply. And even 70 years later, those 3.5 years remain the richest and the most beautiful years of my life, with two very beautiful achievements that I did, the birth of my daughter in October 2009 and my permanent position in France in 2011. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for everything you pass on to us. You change our life. I wish you a truly wonderful retire. All my best, Ingrid.
I'm sitting here in front of our house, as you can see, close to the Alps south of Munich. And I'm reminiscing on the occasion of your retirement symposium on our, I think it's 35 years or more friendship and scientific partnership. And I remember how I first met you in Cold Spring Harbor in Banbury Center. I don't know whether you remember that, but it was very embarrassing to me. I was a PhD student at that time. We had breakfast together and I very embarrassingly didn't know about your work, and Eric Kandel, who was sitting next to either you or me, educated me about that. That somehow didn't seem to get into the way of our friendship, because he then invited me to Scotland, where we went sailing together. Then we had a couple of grants together, HFSP, which were very enjoyable. And we sat on many committees, we wrote papers together, and it actually all ended. This is the last time that I heard from you, when my son was allowed to visit you with his gang that was cycling down from Munich to Gibraltar on your boat in Spain, which he said was a very fun occasion that he remembered, and he continues to ask me how you're doing, etc. Just a few days ago again. And he was very happy to hear that you're doing well. So it's sad that you're retiring, but I really hope that you'll enjoy your time afterwards. Obviously, your contributions to neuroscience have been immense, and I'm sure many people at the symposium will talk about it, so I will not expand on that here. But for me, the most important thing that you have been is that you have been a really wonderful scientific friend, and friend also otherwise, with all the things that we did together just now. It occurs to me that we also were in Japan together with your daughter. I do hope that we meet in the not too distant future. I have extremely fond memories, and so I wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart, and hope to see you again soon.
As memory researchers, we know that memories shape who we are. Many of my most important scientific memories began in Richard's lab. I remember joining Richard's lab in January 2005 as an MRAS neuroscience student. At that time, I was already fascinated by behavior and memory research, and joining Richard's lab gave me the opportunity to be the part of it. After my MRes, I stayed at Richard's lab as a research assistant, then as a PhD student, and later as different positions as postdocs. And before eventually moving to Liverpool in 2021 to start my own lab. I remember the days in Appleton Tower and later the move to Wandsworth Square. The lab was intellectually exciting, but also warm and collaborative. It was a place where ideas, curiosity mattered, and rigorous science mattered. What always stood out to me about Richard was his extraordinary dedication to science. Even while taking on major leadership roles through organizations like BNA, FENS, he always remained deeply engaged with the experiment themselves. I still remember we did surgeries together. He was hands-on, thoughtful, and genuinely excited by good ideas and well-designed experiments. That left a lasting impression on me and influenced the kind of lab I wanted to build myself. Richard taught me that great science comes from curiosity, careful thinking, and persistence. And of course, I always loved that Richard enjoys sailing. Somehow that feels very fitting for someone who transformed our understanding of spatial navigation and memory. Richard, thank you for your mentorship, your scientific vision, and your generosity over the years. Your influence extends far beyond your discoveries. It lives on through the many people you have trained and inspired. Congratulations on your retirement.
Hi, Richard. Sorry I cannot be with you in Edinburgh to celebrate your retirement. Ever since we first met over 50 years ago, you have been a good friend and a colleague, and I remember with considerable fondness the many times we spent together, days talking about science and about life, in the garden of your house in Edinburgh and various places we met over the years, California, who knows where else. We published a few things together. We've talked about innumerable experiments, some of which your lab actually carried out, some of which never saw the light of day, probably a good thing. And over your career, you've shed light on many critical issues, a legacy you should be very proud of. There's no need for me to elaborate on these because I imagine many others will speak to that. So take care, Richard, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future, perhaps at ICOM in Glasgow next summer, and enjoy this tribute, this richly deserved tribute to a fabulous career in science. Lots of love, Richard. Bye.
I had the pleasure of working with Richard in Edinburgh from 2003 to 2008. First on one of his grants and then as a Caledonian Research Foundation Fellow. Before joining his group, my PhD work had focused on the role of the hippocampus in sensory-motor processes and fear, and on functional differentiation within the hippocampus. I had read Richard's papers and really enjoyed them and was keen to work with him on hippocampal memory mechanisms and to learn about relevant behavioral tasks and electrophysiological methods. So I was very happy when he had a position available for me to work on a project using the new event arena to study episodic-like memory. After completing a couple of studies with the event arena, together with Bruno da Silva, a PhD student at the time, I was able to secure a fellowship which allowed me to combine the study of hippocampal memory mechanisms with my interests in hippocampal functional differentiation. Overall, I really learned a lot about the study of hippocampal memory mechanisms while working with Richard and his team, with a special mention going to my office mate Steve Martin. What also really stayed with me was Richard's general approach to science, his emphasis on carefully reading the literature and thinking deeply to come up with clear hypotheses and with powerful experimental designs to test these hypotheses. His persistence in pursuing the questions he was interested in and in looking for the right methods and approaches to address these questions. His emphasis on reporting your studies clearly in comprehensive papers. All this had a lasting influence on my research. Thanks for this, Richard, and I wish you a great retirement.
So, Richard, Graham and I are here in London making this small video to celebrate your retirement and your huge contributions to neuroscience over the many years we've been friends. And I think what we both remember about you is your wonderful facility for condensing complicated topics into easy English so that everybody can understand them. And your main contribution, of course, has been to show the relevance of synaptic plasticity to learning in the mammalian brain. And for that, that's such a huge contribution that we're sitting here in awe at your ability to do excellent science and your wonderful way of being able to express it verbally and also in writing, which reminds us of the Hippocampus Book, which we've both been working on, all three of us in fact, for the last 100 years, it seems.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's Graham, who will say a little something too.
Yes, Richard, what more can I say? Your work has been so incredibly influential. The way I look at it is that Tim discovered a curiosity, a physiological curiosity called long-term potentiation. And I identified the role of NMDA receptors in this curiosity, a pharmacological curiosity. But you're the person who actually brought it to life by showing that what Tim and I have been working on is truly relevant to learning and memory, and that was such an important contribution. And I think the greatest moment in my scientific career was when Tim, you and I, shared the Brain Prize for just that, and we spent a few days together in Copenhagen, and that was just a wonderful time. So Richard, I always cherish these memories of spending time with you and reading your amazing contributions to the scientific literature. So.
Likewise, Graham, I echo those words, and I celebrate a lifetime of scientific friendship. And I'm looking forward to many more discussions with you in the years to come. Richard, love from us both.
Bye.
Bye.
Dear Richard, on the occasion of your retirement party, I wanted to thank you so much for all the things you've done to me over all the decades that we have spent together. First, beginning with the science. So I was a postdoc in your lab, and I also spent several times during visiting your lab during my PhD between 1991 and 1995, when we were working on dorsal ventral differences in hippocampus and also the function of LTP in learning and memory. Your lab is where I learned behavior. I learned how to do experiments. I learned experimental design. And this has shaped totally my own future. And kindly enough, you also let me, in addition, go to John O'Keefe's lab for a visit to learn single unit recordings, which were so instrumental in shaping my subsequent work when I started here alone, together with May-Britt Moser in Trondheim. But I also want to emphasize our personal relationship. So since the beginning, we have not only talked science, we have spent time together talking about life, how to make important choices, and we have had a lot of fun together. I'll mention as one example the visit, the sabbatical visit you spent in Norway in 1996, together with your family, and you spent a couple of months in the middle of the winter in Oslo. We were working together day and night, especially nights, in Per Andersen's lab, but we also had time to go out of Oslo and even to the deepest mountains in the middle of Norway, where we couldn't reach the place with a car. We had to go by a snow coach or a belted car to get in there. I've never been in such a quiet place myself ever. It was quite an experience, and I particularly remember when we took you out to guide you on a ski tour in the afternoon, and it got longer than we expected. Didn't quite know where we were, and it was getting dark, and I was almost panicking because I felt I was responsible for bringing this famous neuroscientist, expert on spatial navigation, up in the mountains, and none of us were able to find our way back. But we did, and I was really relieved. But this is just one of the examples of all the things we've done together. Later, you came to Trondheim as a visiting professor, and you helped me and May-Britt also to set up the lab and to shape its direction. So big thanks both for the science and for the personal relationship. And I hope that now that you're officially retiring, that you also will have time to follow science and even after retirement, give your inputs when it's relevant, but also spend time doing things you like being on the sea or reading or writing or whatever it should be. So good luck with the retirement, and hope that we'll see each other soon, quite soon. Best regards, Edward.
Hi Richard, greetings from sunny Dundee where I'm recording this message. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steve Martin, and my story is that I came to Edinburgh as one of Richard's PhD students in the 1990s, stayed on for a few years as a postdoc, and although I'm now based at the University of Dundee, we've carried on working together on and off over the years. So it's great to have this opportunity to reflect on Richard's work and achievements, but also the ways that he's influenced and inspired others. When I first started my PhD in Edinburgh, like most students I suppose, I didn't really know what I was letting myself in for, but I appreciated Richard's enthusiasm for getting students straight into hands-on lab work and creating an atmosphere of independent thought and experimentation right from the beginning. At the same time, as I'm sure you'll know, Richard brings a clarity and precision to his work that has certainly influenced my thinking, and I'm sure it's influenced many other people too. That clarity is what turned a series of experimental observations and some bold hunches into the conceptual framework that now shapes how we all think about memory formation. So, Richard, I'd like to thank you for getting me started in this line of work and for choosing Scotland as the place to do it. It's been a privilege to work with you over all these years, and I wish you the very best for the future.
First of all, Richard, just wishing you the best in your retirement and that you have a wonderful trajectory. I just wanted to maybe say a few words of appreciation for your contributions. I switched from physics into neuroscience in 1999. I was the first grad student of Jennifer Raymond, and so getting learning and memory paradigms going in mice with motor learning as the focus was my first task in her lab. I was co-advised by Dick Chen as well, and just found a lot of your work very inspiring and very precise, even as it went all the way from sophisticated behavior down to fundamental mechanism. And I was just starting out as a overwhelmed neuroscientist who was really a physicist, and so I was a bit lost in how to think about things like learning and memory. And the 2000 review that you wrote on synaptic plasticity and memory, I really liked, because it seemed like a very physicsy way of thinking about memory. Let's break it down into the most fundamental questions you could ask about it, and it laid out an intellectual agenda that was very precise and very appealing to me. So over the decades since, I've been mostly focused on tools to tackle systems neuroscience, but it remains very inspiring to see how you put forth these intellectual frameworks that help people really deconstruct and think about something as sophisticated as learning and memory. And really just wanted to express my appreciation for your contributions, not only in experimental neuroscience, which of course are immense, but also laying out these wonderful agendas of intellect that allow people to, who, like me, who came to the field from physics and really wanted to see how we could break down complex problems into parts, that such ways of thinking were really quite feasible, even as in a complex field like, the hippocampus and memory. So thank you so much, and just wanted to express my appreciation and to wish you best in the time to come.
Okay, Richard, hi from the Strand Palace Hotel. Again, where we are here with a glass of Talisker to toast you and your very happy and long retirement. And may we see much of each other during that time.
Cheers, Richard.